Okay, I got the following question from a student. Here, I think that the thing that's giving you pause may be the fact of that you might be having trouble of how to determine what three consecutive odd integers are. You may be having trouble creating your legend for this. So let me give you a quick review on consecutive odd integers. I'm going to start with just consecutive integers for a moment. Let's consider the number line. Okay, so we know what the line looks like, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. So what's the next number after 3? Well, we know that next number is 4. But I want to ask this question. What did you do to 3 to get 4? Well, in order to get 4, we had to add a 1 to 3. Does everybody agree? Right? That's what equals 4. And if we wanted the next number after that, well, we know the next number is 5. Again, our reference point, we were using 3 here as our reference point. So how did we get to, what did we do to 3 to get to 5? Well, we added 2 to the 3, right? That's how we got to 5. And we could continue this process using 3 as our reference point. Well, let's consider a new reference point down here. Some number we don't know. Well, since we don't know this number, let's call it x. So I want to ask you, what is the next consecutive integer after x? So the next integer right after x, well, just like we did with our 3 here, we're going to add a 1 to that x. Okay? And if I wanted to know what the second consecutive integer was, right, the one right after that, well, using my reference point of x, that means I would have to add 2 to my x, right? Okay, and we could continue this out, right? The next number would be x plus 3, yada, yada, yada. So that's for consecutive integers only. But our problem is asking about consecutive odd integers. So let's take a look at consecutive odd integers. And by the way, this pattern, the pattern that emerges, will also work for consecutive even integers. But we're going to look at consecutive odd integers since this is what our problem is asking about. So here I'm going to do the number line by counting with our odd numbers. So I'm going to use 7 as my reference point. And I want to know, what is the next consecutive odd number after 7? Well, we know that to be 9, right? So what did we do to our reference point of 7? Well, we had to add 2 to that to get to 9. What would be the following consecutive odd number? Well, that would be, of course, we all know would be 11. What did we do to 7? Well, we had to add 4 to 7 to get to 11. So with that same thinking that we did here in the top, we have an unknown number down here, right? This first number is unknown. Our first number is unknown. So if I want to get to the next consecutive odd integer, then that means I'm going to add 2 to the reference x here, okay? So what if I wanted to get to the third consecutive odd integer? So in reference to the x, we would have to add 4, okay? And again, this pattern also works for consecutive even integers. So with that being said, let me clear my screen. And of course, the beauty of videos is that you can erase if necessary. And not erase. you can rewind if necessary, is the word I was looking for. I was thinking about the erase button. Okay, so to answer this question, we're talking about 3 consecutive odd integers. So based on what I just showed you, we know that the first consecutive odd integer, I'm making my legend here. Remember, I always suggest you guys make a legend. Our first consecutive odd integer is x, or what if you want to call it n, or whatever you want to call your variable. That's what it's going to be. But I'm just going to use x for right now. So then the second consecutive odd integer as we just determined, would be x plus 2. And then the third consecutive odd integer is going to be x plus 4. So what are we going to do with this information? Well, we're going to continue reading, and we see that the three consecutive odd integers are such that so they're going to start telling us how to set up our equation, right? So the first thing that they tell us is that the square of the third integer. So this is why we make a legend, right? So we have our information already laid out for us. So which one is our third integer? Well, this is our third integer, right? And they said that the square of the third integer. So to square the third integer, I'm going to do just that. Here's my integer, and I'm going to square it. So what about the square of the third integer? The square of the third integer is, right? That beautiful word is, everybody knows, means equals. Is 153 less than. So that means that minus 153 is actually going to go in the back, you guys, because it's going to be less than this number. So it's going to be smaller by 153. 153 less than what? Less than the sum. What does sum mean? Sum means that we're going to add, right? And even better than that, when we use that in reading problems, the sum written in this format, when we have numbers after, some numbers given afterwards here, because it says it's 153 less than the sum of the squares of the first two numbers, right? It's not saying that it's 153 less than the first number. So that indicates the sum of, let me pick my pen back up. The sum of indicates that we need to add these first before we do anything else, right? And I'm actually going to use brackets because I have a feeling that we're going to have parentheses on the inside. Okay. All right. So the sum of, so again, sum indicates that we're going to be adding. The sum of what? The sum of the squares of the first two numbers. So here's the first number. So the sum of the squares. So it means we're going to square the first number. And here's the second number. So we're going to square that number. So that number is x plus 2, and we're going to square it. Okay? So there's your equation. And I think you guys can handle it from there. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thanks, and have a great evening.